Which lord will you choose in Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave? Yesterday, I put up a poll on the channel to see who the most popular lord is going to be in Fortune's Weave, and to my surprise, Leda is currently leading the vote. I pretty much expected it to be Dietrich or Theodora, but I guess she's the popular one now. So let's talk about all 4 of our new lords. I did a bunch of research and rewatched the trailers multiple times to squeeze out as much information as possible, so strap in as we analyze them and let me know if I changed your mind on any of them. Also, massive shout out to all the new people who are here from yesterday's video. The reception was crazier than I could have expected, and it was super refreshing to see the surge of excitement. So if you're excited for Fortune's Weave, make sure you subscribe because the content isn't stopping anytime soon. Anyway, let's talk about these characters in terms of their popularity and start with Leda. In the first trailer, Leda is shown as a dancer and bard in certain scenarios, wielding a guitar and dressed in certain dancer garb. She's strikingly beautiful as a character, but comes at us with a strangely powerful opening quote, saying, "There's a man I hate so much that simply killing him will not satisfy me. For that reason, I refuse to die." She's shown to be summoning a demonic beast in one of her attacks, and actually has a dark aura surrounding her both on the map and in battle while she's using whatever skill she's using. This leads me to believe that Leda is mixed up in some kind of dark past that involves the crest, maybe with the Agarthans. If we take a look back to 3 Houses, we remember that demonic beasts are actually the result of crest experimentation, where humans have crest stones implanted in them, or using a crest weapon that's not compatible with its user. Looking back at the lore, the major crest of Timotheos is the crest that Happy has, and that is the one that allows its bearer to summon and command demonic beasts. Given what we've seen in the first trailer, it's very likely that Leda has this crest because we've seen her command the demonic beasts via her skill, or she's been subjected to similar types of human experimentation that allows her to use this power. Her second quote in the initial trailer is also her saying that she refuses to let other people deny her her feelings and accept defeat, showing that she's got quite the willpower. The second trailer we got just expands on her personality a bit further. It immediately introduced Leda as a musician with her sights set on revenge, which we kind of already had an idea about from the previous one. But shortly after, we see an in-game screenshot of a very angry Leda, saying that the moment Lechner steps off the beaten path, she's going to choke the life out of him. That's kind of brutal, and she's clearly very worked up about whatever it is Lechner did. I believe this to be the person she was talking about in the first trailer, and is the man who she hates so much. I mean, that just explains the brutality that she's speaking with, as well as the really angry facial expression. We see a couple of gameplay features of her recruiting allies and opening chests in a dungeon, but that is neither here nor there. But the one thing that's unique to Leda that we do see is the Song of Passion, which is an alternative to the Song of Beasts that we see her use in the previous trailer. We don't quite know exactly what these do yet, but she seems to have songs that let her control or modify things on the battlefield. And that's pretty much it for what we know about her so far until we get more information on the game. Now it's the second most popular character's turn, Dietrich. This is our Alucard lookalike, and I did an entire video on him from the first trailer if you want to take a look at that. Not much has really changed in my opinion, but Dietrich seems to be a rather simple guy. He's riding on a boat looking pretty stoic-faced, and they describe him as a swordsman on the hunt for an ever stronger foe. But from the first trailer, we can remember that he specifically says he must face it again. Seems like this is either in reference to some kind of monster or group. And in the second trailer, he's actually shown fighting one of the monsters on the world map, so I wonder if these two are tied together. It seems a little bit weird for him to showcase that specific gameplay feature, as well as what we talked about from the prior trailer. He's very clearly carrying a crest weapon that we know is called the Answerer, which we haven't seen in 3 Houses before, but the Answerer itself was actually seen in a Fire Emblem game before in the spin-off Tokyo Mirage sessions, and is the sword that Chrom can become. It's probably not relevant here, but an interesting tidbit. What is interesting, though, is that this is also the name of a historical sword called Fragarak. But this is the weapon of the sea god Manon in mythology. In Fire Emblem, Fragarak is actually an axe, so I don't know if any of this stuff is connected, but I thought it was interesting because Dietrich is a swordsman who's come from across the sea on a boat and was shown carrying the sword there. Maybe some loose connections. Anyways, he seems to be a crest bearer carrying the crest of Lamine, which Yaritza had in 3 Houses, but he also shares the murderous intent skill, which Yaritza also has. Between his blonde hair and blue eyes, as well as being from Fodlan, as he states in the second trailer, it seems like he's either a descendant or ancestor of Yaritza and Mercedes. Either way, his second trailer doesn't give us much about him that we didn't already know. He has that skill that we saw initially that lets him blink up to 3 or 4 tiles forward, which is kind of crazy since it lets him move through obstacles as well. The second trailer also focuses on his sword, where he specifically states that his weapon was passed to him by his forebears in Fodlan, which means that he has had these weapons in his family. Otherwise, we didn't really get much more info on him this time around than that. But we did see that he's interacting with Kai, which lets us know that these characters will overlap in the story at some point. The third character we'll cover is Theodora, another one that I made a solo video about the first time around. But here we get a decent amount more information on her actually, and I think she's probably the most prominent character in the second set of trailers. She is the queen of a country called Saramis, which if we look at the expanded map that I somehow missed the first time around, but we saw a limited version of it in the trailer, and this is from the actual limited edition of the game, Saramis is a kingdom in the south of Dagda. In the initial trailers, Theodora had a big focus on strength and acquiring it, and I won't read out the entire quote because it's pretty long, but she says the word strength 5 times. Yes, I counted. But she also mentions she needs strength enough for a queen, which now with this trailer we realize that she actually is a bona fide queen through and through. She's described as a queen seeking to fulfill the long-held dream of her homeland. Everyone kind of clowned on me in the initial trailer reveal because I thought Theodora was throwing some kind of revolutionary spinning top weapon in it, and yes, I did eventually realize it was a freaking wagon wheel, okay, but come on, when have we ever seen a Fire Emblem character throw a freaking wheel? Cut me some slack here. In any case, this leads me to what I wanted to talk about, which is her skill, and she's shown using it in the trailer, and it's called Earthen Throw, which basically just means she's picking up anything off the ground and simply chucking it at the enemy, which I think is both hilarious and pretty badass. I think it would be pretty amazing if this animation was randomized to throw a bunch of different things, or heck, maybe it'll be like the Fire Emblem equivalent of Hidden Power, where the thing thrown changes based on the map or geographical location and can have different types of effective damage. Like, say, throwing a massive ballista arrow that's effective against flyers, or a huge rock that's effective against armors. Seriously, Intelligent Systems, hire me, my ideas are brilliant. Another thing that I think flew under the radar in this trailer is that Theodora is also out for revenge, and she's also trying to avenge her father, tying her in with both Leda's revenge arc and also Kai's daddy arc. I thought that was pretty interesting. Oh, and another thing that's pretty interesting but also kind of random is Theodora for some reason seems to have the crest of Gautier, which is the same crest that Sylvain had in Three Houses. Random, but make of that what you will. So if you're into a queen who wants to build her strength but also get revenge for her family, you might want to side with Theodora here. And last but not least, let's talk about the character who is the least popular but has the potential to be the most interesting out of the bunch. At surface level, he seems incredibly boring. Just a little kid who's on a quest to save his dad's life, as demonstrated in the very first trailer. He has some kind of weird magic that he uses and is seen hanging out with a young girl who wears glasses that he defends. In the initial trailers, he was also seen to have the crest of Aubin on his hand, which is the same crest that Yuri had. And of course, how could we forget the fact that he's in the brand new mounted class with the grounded running around birds, which we now know is called an Orneus Rider. So I'm assuming that bird thing is basically called an Orneus. In this trailer, we also see that Kai's eyes have different colors, which was pointed out to me by a bunch of people in the comments section. I didn't really catch that the initial time. He seems to have golden eyes at some points that have then turned red. We saw a similar phenomenon in Three Houses with Byleth, whose hair color changed halfway through the story after a pretty big plot point, so I wonder if there will be some kind of connection here in the story, or it's as simple as him evoking some kind of Super Saiyan state. In the second trailer, Kai is described as a young boy who is determined to win the games to save his imprisoned father. Well, Kai, if Fire Emblem fathers are anything to go off of, I don't really like your odds, but pop off, brother. He's also described to be from a small village called Ribera Village, which I can't quite see anywhere on the map here, which means it's either a small town that's not worth marking, or it was destroyed at some point and no longer exists. We see him asking for everyone's help to make this work, which I have no idea what that means, and he's seen once again fighting in the arena with his glasses girlfriend. Otherwise, they show him off with a few other gameplay features like training and running around the main city, and later on his skill is showcased, which is a massive, explosive, Hadoken-style attack that sacrifices some of his HP. We also don't really have a name for this technique as opposed to the technique of the other three characters. This makes me wonder if this might be some kind of massive spoiler. Kai may actually end up being the big story character here, and maybe this is the parallel to Azure Moon from Three Houses, so I wouldn't write him off this early. He's got a unique class, an eye change, a weird magical move with no name, and the glasses girl who seems so important and yet we know nothing about her yet. I think y'all are sleeping on Kai, and while I really like Leda, after doing this video it's kind of making me a little bit curious, I'm not gonna lie. But anyways, that's it for now for my in-depth coverage of these 4 main characters. This is almost all of the information that we know so far, unless I've missed something. I'm not proficient in Japanese, so if there's any material out there that I haven't seen, I wouldn't be able to translate it or know about it. But for now, let me know who you're going to choose in the comments below, and subscribe to stay tuned for anything and everything Fortune's Weave related, because this is just the beginning. With that said, I hope you all have a great day, and I'll see you all in another video very soon. Peace.